We will make this plague doctor mask. Și o să mi-o și pun. For this project we will need some vegtan leather, or if you don't want to dye it, you can use whatever leather you like. We have those parts and a piece for the strap. We will of course need 2 sunglasses lenses. You will have the size on the pattern. We will use Fibbings Pro oil dye, and for mask I prefer to use atom wax rather than Resolene. We will need some edge dye. We are using Uniter's Pro dye. Some 1mm wax thread as well. We will of course need a pattern. I prepared it so it will go faster. For the tools, a skybar, a silver pen, a 1.5mm punch, a 3mm one, we have it from Buta, a 4mm one, a 6mm one, a cutter, and someone to mark the distance from the edge. Something to mark the distance from the edge. Wax thread from Ariane, it's a 1mm wax thread. We will need the needles for stitching. Those are John James needles. This is Uniter's edge dye, we are putting it in a
Small jar.
In a small jar. Brushes for the edge dye. We are keeping them in water so they don't get hard. A piece of cotton thread so you have something to spread the dye for the leather. A pair of gloves. And of course a hammer so we can punch the holes. The first step is dyeing the leather. We will pour a little bit of dye in this container. This is a piece of cotton. As you see, we have a piece of cardboard, so if it drips, it won't get on the back of the leather, or only a little bit will get. We will mark the pattern on the leather. We are using the silver pen that we talked about. I also like to mark the holes as well from the start. We can do this because this is a really thin pattern.
Made from thin cardboard.
As you see, it's going quite quickly. And it only took 1 minute.
This is my part. I always cut the leather. I like to cut very much. I sharpen my blade. As you see, my blade has a peak. This peak, you will see why it is good. I will make a very, very difficult cut. This one. This is a very difficult cut. But because I have a peak, it is easier for me. You see, I cut a thick leather in a single stroke with my trusty Olfa cutter. I will sharpen it again, just a little. This is a Falkniven synthetic stone. I modified that stone a little. You see, this blade takes really easy the curve. You see how easy it is. You see, I keep the blade like this. It is always perpendicularly. When you cut precise, it is easier to paint the edges. It is easier to burnish the edges. It is easier to glue it if you have to glue it. Everything is easier. Now I will make 2 small holes because I want to start from here and you see, I cut like this. I stop here. I make this cut too. I stop here. I don't want to cut there, so I will turn the piece of leather and finish the cut like this. This is the most difficult cut. Let me show you how easy it is, in fact. Of course, I can cut it easy because I have a blade with this peak. I cut everything except the straps. I want to show you this metal line. It has exactly 2 centimeters. It is exactly as big as the strap. So I will use it like this. You probably have a strap cutter. I don't have a strap cutter, but this is something improvised that works very, very well. I don't have to make measurements because I use the metal line. like this. It is even. It is perfect. It is exactly like the other one. So I also have the straps and I have everything. Before using the atom wax, we will paint the edges.
I forgot to mention that we also have to make those holes. You can of course use a cutter, but I have this punch. It is 43 millimeters diameter. We want to protect our main punching
Board.
So this is a 43 millimeters hollow punch. We need to make this hole because when we are painting the edge, we want to be able to paint on the inside as well. Be sure you are centering it well because you cannot do this 2 times. So we are going to punch the holes. I like to use this compass so I can mark a line about 3 millimeters from the edge. This is the most important thing if you want your stitching to look great. You have to maintain the same distance from the edge with the holes. We have the 1.5 millimeters punch and the rubber hammer. I always like to keep the edge towards my right side when I'm punching the holes. It is really helpful to have a hand vacuum because it helps you keep the workspace tidy. We are going to paint the edges. This is Black Uniter's edge dye. It's one of the best. It's kind of thick because the edge is perfectly straight. It helps a lot with putting the paint. As you can see, we punched the holes, we finished the edges, and now we have to apply atom wax. So we fix the paint in the leather and also give a shine to it. I'm using a piece of cotton cloth. For this step you don't need to use gloves. You can clean this with hot water. And some more. We waited few minutes and now we have to polish the atom wax. So I'm using a piece of cloth. And this is the difference. I like to skive this part because when we're doing this, it's nice to have a thin leather. So before starting to stitch, I always like to start with this stitching. This is best to do first. We will take 6 times the length because we are doing lines. Tighten all those stitches because if they aren't tight, it will look messy. I'm using this finger to keep the stitching in tension. I'm pinching it down. So and now I'm keeping this thread in tension. I'm tightening it and then I'm keeping it in tension. Finish this stitch. We finish this stitch and now we are going to stitch the beaks like this. We're taking 3 times this length as thread. We have to be sure we have the same length on both sides. When I'm not recording, I'm keeping this between my legs because it's easier to stitch. Another neat thing you can do with an edger is remove this sharp edge because this will stay on your face and it's not that comfortable. You can go a bit towards the eyes as well. And this will be more comfortable now because it's not sharp. So we have to do this stitching now. We will take 6 times the length. Make sure you have the same length of thread on both sides. And try not to puncture the thread, especially on the first step. Keeping it in tension will help you not to puncture it. So we have the first step. I like to try to put them edge on edge. You have to use the hands a bit. As you can see, this first step is a bit open, but from now they will be edge on edge. You should end up with something like this for now. Now it's time for this part. We stitch it like this first and the other part. We took 3 times of thread for this length. get the same length of thread on both sides. And of course same for the other side. We are going to stitch the eye. What you have to be careful about is that those two holes here, those two, are overlapping with those two. I hope you can see. So we are basically, those two are overlapping on the big part. We are getting 3 times the length of the thread. I'm getting 3 times and a bit more because I don't like to use the ends of the thread. And it's best to start with the holes that are overlapping. This, you put the eye part as well. It doesn't matter where you start for this part, it's symmetrical on all directions. And this next hole should go through the beak as well. It's a bit harder because we are going through 3 letters. And what I like to do now is just stitch like this, and we will add the lens when we are almost done with the stitching. This is quite easy to stitch compared to the big. You need to be careful not to miss any hole. Beside the holes we talked about, each of these holes has a correspondent on the other part. This hole is a bit underneath the beak, but it's an individual hole, so it's a bit harder to stitch, but it's not hard. You see? And this will go through both layers, through all 3 actually. This hole as well. A bit more and we will add the lens. So we stitch about this, and now I will try to put the lens in. This is the lens. Of course you have to force it a little bit. And it's inside, and we just finish the stitching. As you can see, this is quite easy to stitch. One more. And I like to go backwards 2 steps before burning the end of the thread. The lenses are secure, you cannot remove them without taking the stitch out. This is the inside. We have to burn the ends. So we have the mask, we only need to finish the straps. Before stitching, I like to skive those. I'm finishing the straps. I stitch this one and we have to stitch the strap as well. I'm still using only one needle because it's easier. Double the first step so you have the piece hold in place. And burn the ends. This is the mask. Happy crafting and happy Halloween!